the war between Serbia and Kosovo has been postponed for a month. The United States deliberately adds fuel to the fire, as it benefits from a new conflict in Europe, many Balkan users of social networks believe. Almost all of the past day, the world was literally on the verge of a new Balkan war. For several hours, the waterfall of information from the Serbian-Kosovo border pushed even the Russian-Ukrainian armed conflict into the background. The first reports of a new tension between Pristina and Belgrade came to the ribbon of international agencies yesterday at about 8 in the evening, when the whole of Europe is having dinner, and in Washington they had already eaten fried eggs and bacon and were preparing for brunch, a snack between breakfast and lunch. The authorities in Pristina were the first to warn their citizens about the dangerous situation with sirens. A short time after that, the bells of Orthodox churches rang throughout Serbia. This happens here when citizens are told of the impending trouble. In Belgrade publics, lines of a famous Serbian folk song began to flicker with the words Tamo far, far od mora, Tamo G village moj, Tamo G Srbija. This song is considered the anthem of every Serbian soldier. Highly recommended, and really takes for the soul. Albanians and Serbs began to gather on both sides of the border, to build barricades. Kosovo police, media reported, headed towards the upcoming confrontation and blocked the bridge dividing Kosovo Mitrovica into Serbian and Albanian parts. At the same time there were messages that the Serbian army is alerted full for advance towards Kosovo and allegedly Serbian military aircraft are directed there to airfields near border. The Secretariat of the President of Serbia Aleksandar Vučić announced the emergency address to the nation. On this background there was explosive information that on the line of contact whether it is wounded, whether the Serbian is killed. It added fuel to the fiery escalation accrued just every minute, having riveted attention of the whole world on the Balkans. It seemed, new war is close. And it probably would have begun if not for the reasonable balanced behavior at this moment of Serbian President Vučić, who called on the international community and the authorities in Pristina to maintain peace. Yesterday we had talks with representatives of the Serbian people from Kosovo and Mitrovica, the president said in his address. Let's try to maintain peace at any cost. I ask Albanians to understand, I ask the Serbs not to succumb to provocations and not to do anything that can lead to any conflict. But I also ask representatives of powerful and large countries that recognized Kosovo's independence to take a little care of international law. Not to allow today's wars to cause conflict, this is my big request. And all I can say is that we will pray for peace and seek peace. And it probably would have begun if not for the reasonable balanced behavior at this moment of Serbian President Vučić, who called on the international community and the authorities in Pristina to maintain peace. Yesterday we had talks with representatives of the Serbian people from Kosovo and Mitrovica, the president said in his address. Let's try to maintain peace at any cost. I ask Albanians to understand, I ask the Serbs not to succumb to provocations and not to do anything that can lead to any conflict. But I also ask representatives of powerful and large countries that recognized Kosovo's independence to take a little care of international law. Not to allow today's wars to cause conflict, this is my big request. And all I can say is that we will pray for peace and seek peace. However, he emphasized, but I will tell you right away, there will be no surrender, of the Serbs of Kosovo and Mitrovica. And Serbia will win. If they try to start persecuting Serbs, mocking Serbs, killing Serbs, Serbia will win. Vučić said that, In his opinion, the West does not need a conflict in Kosovo. The aggravation of the situation is the result of Pristina's unreasonable policy. I note that this is the second attempt by the Kosovars to disperse the military wave from a seemingly empty place. The first happened on September 20 last year, just on the eve of the fateful summit of EU leaders for the Western Balkans, where the fate of the Balkan states wishing to receive a membership card to the European Union was discussed. Then, in order to prevent a political aggravation between Belgrade and Pristina, threatening to develop into a military one, NATO troops increased patrols in Kosovo near border crossings, which were blocked by local Serbs, outraged by the ban on the entry of cars with Serbian license plates into the country. Then, as this time, the president of Serbia took a tough stance, saying that his country would not tolerate the humiliation of its citizens in Kosovo. In the event of a pogrom, we are waiting for NATO's reaction for 24 hours, otherwise Serbia itself will react. The Serbian leader explained at the time that Belgrade was not bringing troops into Kosovo as it was against the agreements and was trying to keep the peace. He announced the double standards of the West, which turned a blind eye to the sending of Kosovo special forces with armored vehicles to administrative border crossings, but was indignant when Serbia redeployed troops on its territory and raised the plane into the air. 7 days in the West were not excited, but aroused when Serbia showed that it would not allow the pogrom to be carried out on its population. They thought I was joking, Vučić said. Last year, negotiations between Belgrade and Pristina took place for almost 2 weeks, ending with an agreement on the creation of a working group that will work out a long-term solution to the problem with the numbers of vehicles belonging to the Serbs. And now it turned out that nothing, in fact, was ever decided. Everything has returned to normal, mutual reproaches, threats and hatred, threatening to go into the hot phase of the conflict. Apparently, Vučić's requests, coupled with his determination, as well as other considerations of the Western rulers of Balkan destinies, nevertheless had an effect. The night after the Serbian president visited the army headquarters, the chief tuner of measures and weights around the world, the United States, intervened in the situation. According to Kosovo and Serbian media, at midnight there was a meeting between Prime Minister and President of self-proclaimed Kosovo Albin Kurti and Vjosa Osmani with U.S. Ambassador to Kosovo Jeff Hovenier. After the talks, the American ambassador told the media that he asked the authorities in Pristina to postpone actions on Serbian numbers and documents for 30 days and called what happened the day before disinformation and misunderstanding. According to Serbian publics, in the case of Americans and Albanians, the word "I ask" is tantamount to the word "I order." If Hovenier had actually asked, earlier, there would have been no escalation. But the United States deliberately adds fuel to the fire, as it benefits from a new conflict in Europe. As a result of these negotiations, the Kosovo authorities nevertheless met the request of the Americans. It's scary to think, after all, they could refuse, change their anger to mercy, postponing the entry into force of the decision on Serb license plates until September 1 of this year. We look forward to working with our partners in the EU to reduce tensions. We are not asking for the cancellation of the decision, this is clear, but we ask you to postpone it, the American ambassador said. In general, citizens, you can disperse. The war is postponed for 30 days. Apparently, against the background of Russian-Ukrainian events, as well as tensions with China, it was decided that Bolivar would not stand the three. It is also clear that the West periodically invigorates Belgrade and all the Balkans with similar events. Serbia has broken out of the general course of confrontation between Russia, dares to disobey the advice of both Europeans and Americans, does not support sanctions against Moscow. The list of accusations only on the surface includes the purchase of Russian gas on the cheap, as if in the peak of freezing Europeans, as well as weapons, and joint military exercises with Russia. For example, last year, Slavic Shield. They were attended by Russian anti-aircraft missile and cannon systems Panzer-S. According to the results of such exercises in 2019, with the participation of Russian anti-aircraft missile systems S-400 Triumph, Belgrade signed a contract with Moscow for the supply of Panzer C-1 air defense systems. Well, and the stubborn non-recognition of Kosovo, which the EU strongly recommends to exchange for membership in a European family. This has not been said goodbye before, but now, even more so. But paradoxically, Serbia itself, sympathetic to Russia, is striving for the European Union. But in the West they don't play like that. Therefore, now, it seems, given not only the wishes of Belgrade, but also the international situation around it and in the world, a difficult moment has come for the Serbs. It will definitely not be possible to sit on two chairs,